Good morning, everybody. Today is September 24th. It's all downhill from here. 2018. It's MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. How could Danny answer that phone call and said yeah at the same time? Goes, that's Dan. Danny's freaking out over there, and there's somebody on hold.
Do it.
Go to the call.
Go to the call.
MMA Junkie Radio.
What up, boys?
It's the Lack Dog.
Dan.
Hey, Lackey.
What's up, boys?
How are you?
He heard his name.
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing great. Thank you for asking.
This is my last week of work. Next week at this time, I will be in SFO or probably in the air.
What's SFO? Is that the airport?
Yeah, it's the airport in San Francisco. Flying out to see you guys for a week.
That's cool.
Watch some football, drink some beers.
Party.
In that order?
Mm-hmm.
No, drinking beers and watching football.
That's what I figured. Cool.
Yeah. So what's up with you? How's the weather out there, boys? How's Dan Tom doing?
Dan Tom's doing very good, Lackey. Thanks for asking.
It's hot. Not as bad, though. It's starting to cool off a little bit.
Like 90s hot?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hot.
Dude, I think we're going to have like another 100 degrees in
I just want to say a quick hello. I was playing a little video games with Rico. Thought I'd call in.
Who's this fool?
Jason Lackey.
Oh, okay.
Lackey.
Hey, did you told me you added Lackey to the Facebook, right?
I believe so.
He says he still hasn't gotten shit.
Como chingan.
And I thought I saw it, too. I think Lackey's tripping.
I checked my groups. I'm not in it.
It's not a group. It's like an event page or something.
Yeah, check that.
Okay, cool. Alrighty, I was just saying what's up real quick.
Invite.
Hey, Garoppolo's done, huh?
That looks really bad.
Janine Garoppolo?
Dude.
How's Danny know about Garoppolo?
George,
Hey,
I work at a
Gigi,
fantasy
what's that?
sports network.
Well, that's true. I get
Gigi,
you
was that
are
not
in
one
first
of the
place too
PI
in
penalties?
your fantasy league, right?
No, I'm in third.
Oh, okay.
Thought you were good.
Was that not one of the worst PI penalties you've ever seen, Gigi?
You mean the fact that they called it on us and they shouldn't have?
Hey, we're coming up in
Yeah.
30.
Dude,
On the-
man, we would have had their back to
on
the their back to the wall because 5 minutes left, only down 1 touchdown, momentum. Oh, that one sucked, man. I thought Beathard threw it great, and I think Beathard's awful to tell you the truth, but it was a beautiful pass.
The worst call of the weekend was Clay Matthews.
All right, guys.
Oh, I know.
What was he
Stand
supposed
by.
to do?
Dude,
Yeah.
they gotta get rid of that. They gotta. I'll end on this. They gotta get rid of that, dude. They gotta take their pride and get rid of that tackle. That is horrible.
Big
dude. He
time.
got called
I
twice.
gotta
on
meet
it
you.
now.
Sorry.
All right.
Later.
Why's Danny got to eat him?
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it,
Isn't
baby.
one of those usually green?
All night long, we rollin'!
Oh.
Don't forget the break structure.
The
The break
MMA
structure?
Junkie Radio revolution is
Oh, yeah,
upon
1 minute.
us.
Okay.
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of
There's just no escaping.
cyberspace. And through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and Sirius XM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to another episode of MMA Junkie Radio, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, Ari's co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, handling all the producing duties, Danny Otto. What's up, guys?
What's up?
Wasabi.
Did you have a nice birthday yesterday, guys?
I did.
Did anyone forget? Let's fry them right now. Let's dunk on them.
Yes.
Any key members?
Yeah.
Who?
Really key. Tommy forgot.
Oh, wow, that's a lifelong friend there.
I know. And this fucking turd that we have on the line right now, Danny, I called him up to tell him who was going to be on the show, and I gave him like 2 or 3 outs where he's like, okay, cool, I'll get this down. Thanks for calling me. And I'm like, all right, you got anything else on your mind? And he was like, well, hey, we got a gig coming up. I gave him probably, Danny, how many outs did I give you? At least 3, right?
That was entrapment. And I told you later on, I did have a plan, and I didn't even think of it. I didn't put 2 and 2
Your
together
plan was to forget yesterday and most of today. I mean, we're halfway through today.
Well, no, he told me later.
Later I sent him something.
But he had the chance to get me where he could have just said, hey, happy birthday. And so Danny, Tommy, and no, that's pretty much
about it. Mom, Dad, everybody came through?
Yeah.
What about Juliet?
Yeah, she was the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she got me like at midnight.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, Goes turned 40. Welcome to 40 Goes. The body starts falling apart. Luckily, you prepped yourself by losing all that weight. You've been hitting the weights as well. And I think your mind's always been pretty strong. 9 years of psychology school. Prepped you for that. But
that was an inside dick, by the way. What?
But no, I think Goes will be right. And I'm telling you, man, Dan Tom, you're 32 or 33, right? You just
33, yeah.
33, yeah. I was having that conversation with Dan Tom the other day. I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, as you get older, start doing the stuff you really want to do now. As you get older, it just gets tougher, and you just have these, like this knee injury. You guys could have told me, hey, no, maybe Russia's a bad example. But if you would have said, hey, all expenses trip to Russia for the World Cup. But let's just say my knee injury had happened just a few months later, I probably would have had to decline because this setback was enough that driving and doing the things that a normal human being can do, I couldn't do them. And I never imagined I was going to tear my knee. So you just get older, and these injuries, they happen, man. And you just go through phases. Women go through phases too. You ever see a woman in her late 30s or 40s go like this?
Yeah.
Like they start like shuffling themselves. They're getting these things called
I
hot flashes.
put my shirt back on.
Yeah. they get these hot flashes, and so they start tripping and whatever. But we're not here for that. We're here for some mixed martial arts. So let me squeeze in a couple other things. Anthony Joshua defended his titles, because he has all of them practically, versus Tyson Fury. Povetkin, sorry. Fury and Wilder will be fighting in December. And I'll tell you what, going into this fight, if you would have asked me, and I'm an American, what do you think of Joshua Wilder? Well, that's going to be a tough night for Wilder if they ever fucking sign the fight. Now I'm thinking Wilder has a chance.
Yeah.
So, but Wilder has to get past Fury. But anyway,
problem, right?
On DAZN, I don't think so. I don't think it'll be a problem. On DAZN, they had Povetkin versus Joshua. Joshua defended. The night before, Mater Dei, the number 3 high school team in the United States, defeated IMG, the number 1 high school team in the United States. It was a barn burner, man. I stayed home. I wish I was at that stadium. I just wish I was at the stadium, and I didn't pull the trigger. Here I am trying to tell you guys, hey, pull the trigger on things because your life passes you by. Right. And I'm a jackass. I just didn't go. I had my buddies going, come on, let's go. You can do it, And I had USC on one TV and that, the Mater Dei on the other TV, and I just knew there was some things I could probably just do at home and be more productive. So it was my own doing. If my shit was more in order, I would have went. But because it isn't, I'm trying to play catch up like a dipshit. I had to stay home and just, be somewhat productive, but watch the games. Either way, they both won. And then Tiger Woods got himself a win. The 49ers got themselves a loss. The Redskins got themselves a win. Dan, who's your team? The Redskins?
Yeah.
Your Redskins won.
The Redskins? Okay. Yeah, I'm a Redskins guy, yeah.
Man United drew. Liverpool can't seem to lose. There you have it. It was a fun sports weekend. And, of course, on Saturday night, we had mixed martial arts. What a main event between Thiago Santos and Eric Anders. Holy cow. Now, guys, I had my parlays all set up. And Alvey cost me. But I really had a fun night. Like, we had ourselves so many finishes. We had ourselves some retirements. One that was kind of close to us. It's not like we're really tight with the guy, but we've seen him grow up in front of our own eyes, and that's Evan Dunham. And I remember when I was reading Ben Folks' article about nicknames, he goes, there was 2 of them that just didn't have one. One of them was Evan Dunham. I forget who the other guy was. And I thought, we tried. 3D. Yeah. We tried like hell for 3D. And this was like in 2009, 2010. He didn't want to embrace it. I think at first he was down, and then it went away, right?
Yeah, it just
went away. And now here we are. He's going away. I mean, his career's done. It was a fun career to cover you, Evan. I'll give you that, man. I think he made it to exactly 20 fights, and even though he never wore gold around his waist or fought for any titles, it was still a fun career. I thought he always gave an entertaining fight. He was always trying to put it on someone, or someone was trying to put it on him. But seriously, Evan, congrats, man. That was really, really a fun career. And then Talis Latis also retired on Saturday night. Now he went out on top, with his hand raised. Evan unfortunately lost. He took a brutal knee to the liver. I mean, perfectly timed, right on the liver from Trinaldo. But Latis actually won his fight over Hector Lombard.
Yeah.
So what a way to go out, in Brazil, his home country. He's from Rio de Janeiro, but the fights were in Sao Paulo. So pretty close. He said a lot of people came to watch his final fight, and there you go. But back to Santos and Anders, man. As we got up to there, I thought, okay, how much gas does Anders have in his tank? He took the fight on 6 or 7 days' notice. He had to fly to Brazil. He luckily didn't have to worry about a weight cut because he fought at 205, not 185. But still, that's a tall task against Thiago Santos, who's no joke. And instead, they went out there and they had themselves an awesome fight, man, for 3 rounds. It's just my man succumbed to, I think, a combination of exhaustion and strikes. And that was that. He couldn't even stand. I think a lot of it was the strikes, though. Yeah.
This part of your head, you hit it with that ferocity over and over and over, you're going to be pretty dizzy. When you ever been on a roller coaster and you just kind of bump your head a little bit, and then when you get up, you stand up, you're like, whoa.
The New York. I know the secret.
That one's bad. Huh?
I know the secret to New York, so that you don't get a headache. If anybody wants to know, if you ever want to write it, just say, Gigi, what was that secret? And I'll tell you. But I don't know why it's a secret. I mean, basically just pin your head back against the seat, because the minute it's not, it will rattle a little bit. So what you want to do is just kind of pin it back a little bit, pin your back and your head back to it, versus worrying more about leaning forward or raising your hands and all that. Because, yeah, it does shake you up a little.
Remember I told you the pony stepping on my foot was one of the worst pains of my life? Number 2 is on a roller coaster. It was either Revolution or Colossus. They just put the lap bar on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my hand like here, getting ready to get out. And the thing, when it opens, it pops out, just snaps. And it smashed my fingers up against the thing.
Oh, really?
Dude, that hurt so bad.
You would think that's something that they'd correct, because that seems like it could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
And that's a company that doesn't want to get sued.
Right. So
I don't want to be the guy that tops you. So just at the end, go Magic Mountain. And then I can give you a Magic Mountain story, too.
I think I was there. Was it the Riddler's Revenge in your crotch?
Yeah. All right.
Going back to that card, I want to play Monday morning quarterback for a little bit.
Please.
I was thinking about this, and this almost became a daily debate question. Now that it's all said and done, I know it's easy to do it now, but was it the best choice for Eric Anders to take that fight?
Yes.
Considering everything that happened, do you think it was the best choice?
Yes.
I think so, too.
I think it was worth the gamble.
You're not going to retire. I mean, he luckily just he had suffered a loss before, so it's not like you could say, well, now it's undefeated streak. I think fighters need to get away from trying to be undefeated. I think it's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he probably made his bosses happy. I think he learned a lot about himself, taking a short notice fight like that. As bad as the result was, because it was kind of ugly to see him get up and be like that, I think he's going to learn a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Dan?
I was going to say, I'm going to say no. I mean, if you watch our breakdown video, that's the reason I state for picking against Eric. I've never picked against Eric. I'm a big fan of his. I'm still a big fan of his. I wanted him to do well. But I thought it was just a tough matchup to step in. Anybody's going to step in a 6-day main event over in Brazil against a Brazilian. I mean, let's be honest here, you know. And stylistically, you know, there were some challenges that were going to be there for him that were going to be tough, even if they both had a full camp, ideally. So, with that being said, I think it was a poor choice. And,
wow.
And you know, and I don't think he loses stock. Again, he's such a warrior. It's the reason why we're fans of a guy like Eric Anders. I'm not trying to kick a man while he's down or come at him. Believe you me, that is not what I'm saying. But if I'm going to answer Goz's question honestly, yeah, I mean, I'm on the record for the reason why I picked against him is because it was a bad decision. And I don't think that's an outlandish thing to say. You're fighting a guy like Thiago Santos in 6 days' notice. You know, we've seen
for his career or for his health.
For his career, because, you know, health, you know, you can start getting into it and be like, oh, well, he's young. Well, there's football mileage, and you can kind of have that argument for, you know, how much miles. But that's not what I'm more talking about. I'm treating Eric Anders, even though his age might not reflect, you know, that he's a rookie, not a rookie in a bad sense, but I'm saying that he's young in his career. Whereas, you know, Yair Rodriguez, Frankie Edgar, Eric Silva, John Fitch, and you can go on and on. You can see these matches where these guys, they took a little too much too soon. And they didn't just get a loss for it. You know what I'm saying? They got a, you know, and I don't think that's what happened here. Again, it was more exhaustion than the concussive blows, and Anders went on a shield. He didn't lose any fans. I don't think he took too much damage. You know, Fernando Prates said he was, you know, having beers with his wife the night of, which was good to hear. You know, so I don't think he's a mentally strong guy. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying going into the fight, that would be a worry. If I have a guy that Eric Anders, who I think has a high ceiling, I want to see him do well. He's still young in his career, right? That's my take on it.
Okay. That's why I asked the question, because going in I thought this is just bad news. But when it was all said and done, I thought about it and I was like, all right, a lot of people know who he is, main event. I just don't like that he took that punishment, but if he can get past rankings and all that, which you're right, I don't think it's going to affect him too much. I started to think, I wonder if maybe it did work out.
Yeah, I'm on the other side. I think it was a good...
I'm kind of in the middle... More towards maybe he may have swayed me. Now I think, okay, maybe it was good, especially the way he was talking afterwards. But going in, I had everything he's saying. I was thinking the same exact thing.
Well, here's what I think. I think, for one, it was in a division that wasn't his, so he didn't have to put his body through the cut.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a cut. Yeah, I don't think he walks around at 204, but the cut wasn't as bad as getting down to 185. So, had he won, I don't even think I would have been leading the charge to go, we got a new 205er. I mean, I really feel like this was just, I'm there to save the show, but I'm going back to 185. Now that said, that's what we thought of Kelvin Gastelum, and look what he's made of it, right? But I think, you know, he knows where his bread is buttered, 185, but he was willing to save the show. He got paid show-up money. He almost got the win. There was a couple times where he was threatening, man. He almost got that submission. Yeah. He also hurt Santos, but he didn't, so I can't give it to him. But he went for it. He did get the bonus, though, for Fight of the Night. So that's money that he can reinvest in his career, whether it's more travel for specific types of training or bringing in, you know, specific training partners for his upcoming matchup. But it was still a paycheck, which, again, gets you towards your next contract. We don't know if he's already up for it or is closer. And guess what? When it comes time to negotiating and you go, hey, this is what I've done so far, this is my record, and remember that thing I did for you in Brazil, who knows? It might get him closer to
a bargaining chip, right?
A little bit, yeah. You said he didn't take damage. I thought he did take damage. I mean, it wasn't like...
No, I thought I said it was ugly when he was...
Oh, they said he took very little damage. And
That to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right? You only get so many of those.
But remember, he could have taken all that damage and won, and we wouldn't be talking about this. For some reason, we always, man, he won, and we don't talk about the damage even a winner can take. But that's their job. You know, their job is to go out there and compete, to entertain, and unfortunately, you are going to take damage. But he, I don't know, Dan. I just think that it was worth the risk. He almost pulled it off. And he was fighting another 85er, albeit, though, I'll grant you that one of the two is closer to making that eventual move up. And it's probably Santos, because he's a big guy. It's just like Anthony Smith. It's just a matter of time, and then that guy graduates. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised. I thought Anders would look smaller. But he didn't look that small in there.
Remember when he was in studio? I mean, him and Julian are both like 6'1", almost 6'2". They're pretty big dudes, but he's wide, you know. And I remember we were standing next to him, was going, God, like these guys fight at 185. But
they didn't mention it on the broadcast, but I still can't believe that Santos made it to welterweight, and he fought welterweight in the UFC.
Thiago Santos?
Yep,
he did.
He fought welterweight. And,
how long ago?
And probably like 20. This was probably 2014,
that might even be a bigger miracle than AJ.
Yeah. So if he ends up going to 205, like you're saying, and you're right, George, and the fact that if he did win, there'd be a whole lot less talk, and I 100% agree with that. I guess what I'm just saying is, you know, kind of on the notes you guys are talking about, whether it's damage physically or I'm talking about career trajectory and hitting these bumps, you know, maybe at the wrong times, and not to Monday morning quarterback too much. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm all for that. I get excited for that, but I get more excited when it's guys who kind of, I don't want to say have nothing to lose in a negative way, but I'll give you the Chris Leben to Michael Bisping range. Whether it's a fun guy who kind of, you already kind of know his role, you know, Chris Leben, where he did the back-to-back, where he fought Aaron A-Trade Simpson, and then he went and fought Yoshihiro Akiyama, and it was just this crazy 2-week turnaround, right? And the first fight wasn't that great. I think it was like a decision win or something like that, but it was the fact that Leben made the 2-week turnaround, and then it was such a crazy fight. And then with Bisping, right, with the opposite end, where he kind of the same thing, you're giving the, we'll throw the veteran a bone. He deserves it. We need a last-minute fill-in. I like the, you know, I like those, and obviously beggars can't be choosers in this state of the UFC schedule. You got to take what you can get, which is why we got our two middleweights fighting at light heavyweight in the first place. But I'm just saying that's my argument. I guess in an ideal world, I mind less of those guys taking it, but I'm more cautious of the younger guys. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, he in the end, Anders took the loss. Santos takes the win. I think Santos may still want to. He's got two hands to play. You know, 205 and 185. We'll see what they approach him with next. I thought it was a pretty big win for him in the headlining bout. You could just tell the stadium was like, wow, that's Santos. Like you could tell in Brazil he probably became took another level of becoming a star. Here in North America, I mean, yeah, we get excited when he's on a card, but he's not a bona fide star here yet. But you know, they both cashed the check and they gave us a great fight, and luckily they shared 50,000. Yep. The rest of the card went as follows. In the co-main event, Alex Oliveira made really quick work of Carlos Pedrosoli. I mean, 39 seconds is all that one took. Man, that Brazilian cowboy is he's on a roll. He's exciting to watch. He's got the cowboy, you know, look with the hat, and I mean, he's basically Cerrone, Brazil's version of Cerrone.
He's got that big smile.
Yeah, and he's really fun to watch for a lot of people. You tell me he's on a card, and right away I tell you that card's off to a good start. Antônio Nogueira, all 42 years old of them, defeated Sam Alvey. I love Sam, man. We have him on the show quite often. Goz and I actually ran into him at the World MMA Awards, bullshitted with him and everything. But this guy stung my parlay a couple times now.
Yeah. I saw.
I wasn't smiling. I'll tell you that much.
A lot of bettors upset with him that night, so you weren't alone, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
now that said, Dan, you know, he went out, he fought, and Nogueira just fought a real good fight. I got to tip my hat to Nogueira. I thought he was done at 42 years of age with the layoffs that he's had, with the broken down body that he appears to paint. You know, he paints this picture of like when he walks in a room, it's like that Bigfoot sighting you always talk about. You know, he's just barely like stumbling along. His older brother has to ride a bike for an hour just to warm up his hip.
Yeah,
these guys have put in time into the sport, blood, sweat, tears, mileage, damage, whatever, and you can just tell there's not much more to give. But goddamn, do these guys rise to the occasion when it counts? Big Nog did it against Schaub. Everybody thought Schaub's gonna light you up. I think Schaub had just lit up Mirko or somebody.
Yep.
And here in Nogueira, I don't think anybody thought Ali's gonna light you up. I guess, but just, you know, more than likely this is your last fight, Nog. Thanks for the memories. And here goes Nog, goes out there and wins. He didn't retire, and he says he might still in the post fight, but he hasn't. But damn, good for Nog. Yeah, and there's not too many people from Pride left fighting in the UFC, but he's one of them.
Who are the ones that are left?
Shogun. In the UFC or in MMA?
In the UFC.
Okay. Shogun. Nog. Verdum's on suspension, but I met Verdum through Pride, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Lombard had a fight in Pride, but I don't know that he gives off that
Right.
feeling.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guys I was thinking of was like
Musashi left.
pulls like that. Where you're
I don't know if there's. You know any off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head, but while you guys are thinking of that, I just want to weigh in on the Nogueira train. I agree. Fought a great fight, busted a bunch of parlays. I still will argue though that Nogueira came off that night with a loss.
Why is that?
Because you just mentioned it. I said it too. I'm like, if he does win this fight, it's going to be a huge mistake if he doesn't right the wrong that not just history as it does gives us lessons for us all to go off of, but his own brother.
Retire off a win?
Yeah, that Brendan Schaub win that he should have freaking retired off of.
Oh.
That everybody says with the, everybody has that opinion. You know, there's a perfect time to retire. Why didn't he do it? It was such an amazing moment. People were crying in the stands, and maybe not the same effect this last
And in the
Saturday.
locker room?
But yeah, but my goodness, like, what go out,
Here's
man.
why, Dan.
Retire.
Here's why. I know exactly what you mean. Our sport's not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
If we were like those guys, the ones that make 7 figures, so let's just say he made $2 million per fight versus $200,000 per fight, I think he'd go, man, I'm going down on top. You know, cash my check, I'm gone. But $200,000 can go so quick for these guys. Now, granted, I've heard these guys have a lot of schools in Brazil, and apparently that's doing well. So maybe I'm arguing against myself. But what I feel like is what these veterans feel like is, are you telling me that all I got to do is go out and do what I do in training, but just to like a higher level or a different gear, and you're going to pay me another $200,000? Sure, I'll do that, you know. And then they go through their training. They don't train as hard as they used to, but they'll go through their training, make sure they do their weight, and then, hey, either he's going to kick my ass or I'm going to kick, just like in training, you know.
Yeah.
We're just going to go out there and do my thing, and then they're going to give me another check. And those checks mean something to them. But if we were at a point where these guys are making $2 million a fight, then I think they could go, you know, I think I'll be good with this. So I think I'll be good with these last three that say $1.5 million, $1.750 million, $2 million. All right. His last checks were 1/10 of that. And so is that enough? Could I do a little bit more? I have 3 kids. Is that enough to take care of the universities? Can, you know, our vacation home? I just think that's what it boils down to is the money.
Yeah. I think more so guys like him, like Dan Henderson, Vitor Belfort, who they fought for the kind of the peanuts at times early in their career, and I think they're making up time. So in other words, these checks that they're collecting, I think, are making up for some of the fights that they had to fight for $10,000, $15,000 back in the day. I think they can't get over that sometimes.
Yeah,
that's very
exactly.
True. Very true.
Andre Ewell defeated Renan Barao, and Randa Marcos drew with Marina Rodriguez. That rounds out your main card. We're going to go to a break in just a second, but quick thoughts, guys, on Ewell versus Barao. Dan?
Just, you know, it was like I said, if Barao loses this one, he definitely is done. I mean, he was my pick, but like I told you, George, it was not a confident one, and we saw it as these fights go on. Barao's just like that archetype for the 90s video game bad guy, where the more damage you do, his face changes, and like that's kind of been the story of Barao's last couple fights.
He had great moments in that
fight.
He did,
yeah.
He had him where he wanted to. Even if he pulls off the win, though, you could probably go back to the weight thing. So it probably wouldn't feel like 100% of a victory.
True.
Yeah.
But he did have him hurt, and he did do a lot of things. It's just he couldn't put him away, where I think the old Renan Barao could have.
Yeah, he looked tough on the ground, but I'll tell you what, Ewell, it's not like Ewell had this amazing game plan where you were like, holy cow, I didn't know from what angle the knee and the elbow and the punches. I mean, it was basically just jab, 1-2.
Yep.
1-2. And every time he popped Barao got hit like, wow, where'd that come from? It's like, motherfucker, he's been doing that all night. Had he just been able to use his head movement or stop that or get the fight back to the ground, it's not like Ewell was like battering his legs or anything else. To give Ewell credit, though, that guy covers a lot of ground with his straight punches. You know what I mean?
And he could have caved after round 1.
Yeah.
But he came
for
back
sure.
strong.
He did, man. So, first of all, Andre Ewell, you're on the map. Congrats. You got the win. So you got your show money, you got the win, and you got, I think, 30% of Barao's money. Great night for Andre Ewell. Barao, man, he still shows that he's got some skills, but I just think his fight IQ, it needs to improve. I don't know if his coaches are to blame or if his coaches just feel like they're talking to a wall or what, because the guy still has skills, but they're not championship level skills anymore.
Yeah.
So they're just basically, hey, they're UFC skills. Maybe I can put other guys over. He should not be putting Andre Ewell over. He should be putting guys like Hey, is Marias the truth? Oh, wow, Marias beat Burrell. Hey, is the Sunsow? I mean, the Sunsow's the truth. But, like Sterling, those guys, he should be putting those mid-tier contenders, those top 10 guys, over as he goes down. The 15 guys over, the top 20 guys over. Yule's probably not even top 50 or 75, and yet he just put that guy over. You see what I'm saying? And bad night for Burrell.
I agree with you, George, and I'll say this. I never say this about fighters. You can look as deeply into it as you want. But I'll only say this because Burrell's the best example, guys. Go pull up his record right now, and if you look at the correlation of when he hasn't looked the same, let's just say he is one of the worst guys that has not looked the same since late 2015, and I will leave it at that.
Oh, shit. All right. All right, so we'll come back, and we'll cover the rest of the card. Let's take this break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation 93. On the way out, let me give you some facts here. The Fight of the Night bonuses went to Thiago Santos and Eric Anders. Well-deserved. And the Fight of the Night went to, or no, they call it Performance of the Night, excuse me, Antônio, Rogério Nogueira, and Charles Oliveira. In that process, Charles Oliveira broke Royce Gracie's record for most submission wins in the UFC. In attendance, there were 9,485 at Gimnasio do Ibirapuera in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I don't have a gate here, I'm sorry, but we will be joined in the second hour by Fernanda Pratas, who covered the event for us, so we'll talk to her a little bit about this event, and we'll finish the show with Valentina Shevchenko. Again, both those ladies in the second hour. When we come back, we'll take calls, and we'll continue recapping UFC Fight Night 137 here on the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Stay close. Do not touch that dial.
charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Football season is here, and Barstool Radio is bringing a tailgate atmosphere to you every day with their unique and outlandish takes on the sports and pop culture stories that are trending this week. Enjoy refreshing content that's by the common man, for the common man on Barstool Radio, on Power 85, and streaming on your phone, or at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, continuing here, our recap of this past weekend. We have UFC Fight Night 135. Here's some other fights that and the results. Charles Oliveira, like I mentioned earlier, he got a performance of the night bonus. He got it by choking out Christos Giagos via submission in the second round, breaking Royce Gracie's record for most submissions in the UFC. Francisco Trinaldo defeated Evan Dunham. Evan Dunham retired. I wish he would have done the tradition of taking off the gloves and leaving them there.
I like that.
He kind of didn't do it. Now, Trinaldo kind of reeled him in as part of his post-fight, so maybe those 30 seconds could have been used to untape him and go through that process. But again, Evan's just kind of done things to the beat of his own drum. I've always thought it's a unique retirement that that it's most fighters follow that protocol. Ryan Spann defeated Luis Enrique. Boy, both guys have a future in the UFC, but both guys need to work on their conditioning. But man, they have some skills. I like Enrique at 205.
Yeah.
Spann, I mean, in the first minute of a fight, looks like a motherfucker you don't want to deal with. But then that gas tank, or that energy meter, just starts to drop a little bit, and things start to slow down. So he definitely needs to address that. But I really like that Fortis team in Texas. I'm seeing more and more of those guys, and I think they'll tighten that up.
He reminds me a lot of OSP in the sense that when you look at him, you go, man, if he could just, the best parts of him, if he could just do that over 5 rounds or 3 rounds the whole time, he'd be a nightmare.
Augusto Sakai defeated Chase Sherman. I like Chase Sherman fights. He's up for a contract. I think he's actually a free agent. So he can walk into the UFC office and go, are my fights exciting? And they'd go, yes. But can he quantify that into getting paid more money? Because he's not showing us that he can be a contender, much less a champion. But he does entertain. But that said, Chase, you just can't keep this up, man. That's a lot of damage that he takes in his fights just for the entertainment's sake. I think he needs to just tighten up his game in certain aspects. If you're getting hit 200 times per fight, maybe your goal should be 150 or 100. I mean, there's got to be ways to tighten it up. A lot of these guys, head movement, man. Work on your head movement. Work on your footwork. Limit the damage that you take. Sergio Moraes defeated Ben Saunders. Very, very technical fight. Left no space for Ben Saunders to work his 10th Planet game, his rubber guard.
And head and shoulder pressure, folks, when you watch that. The importance of head and shoulder pressure. Sorry, go
He
on.
was money. Sergio Moraes was money there. And Saunders made it too easy. In round 1, he moved. In round 2, he threw this lazy kick, and Moraes caught it. And Saunders, what happens is he's so used to knowing that if he's in his guard, he has so many options. For 1, he ties you up. 2, he can attack your shoulders. You know, he likes to go for the omoplatas or throw up triangles. And the problem is that's a habit that a lot of fighters, they're fighting for these underhooks or wrist control, and they're using their hips to actually get out of engagement. And instead, he's wrapping his arm and basically inviting the fight to the ground. And there's certain guys you can do that with. Moraes isn't one of them. Mayra Bueno Silva defeated Jillian Robertson. Talis Latis, as mentioned earlier, defeated Hector Lombard. Ilazu Zaleski dos Santos defeated Luigi Vendramini. And that was a really amazing flying knee, by the way.
Let's get dos Santos off the prelims now. That was the guy that I was
talked about him last week, right?
5-0, now 6-0.
Yeah. And Livia Hanata Souza defeated Alex Chambers. Now, let me just say this quick, and then we'll get to your guys' thoughts on anything that I just covered, as well as the callers. Bellator 205 also took place. AJ McKee thumped John Macapa with a KO punch in round 1. I think he's got 12 wins in Bellator, so he's basically the leader there. He's breaking records, and he's championship material. You know, I mean, like,
getting better.
I know there's times where we say, don't rush him, you know, you're going to break him. And then there's other times where we go, what are you waiting for? You know, feature him. I'm there. Feature him. Feature him in a title fight. AJ McKee, I think, is just, he could just be so much more bigger than he already is. Yeah, that's it. Rafael Lovato Jr. defeated John Salter via submission, rear naked choke, round 3. Vita Arteaga defeated Denise Kielholtz, submission, standing guillotine in round 2. Patricky Frady defeated Roger Huerta in in round 2, KO punch. He says, give me the title shot. But more than anything, what is going on between Chandler and Primus? Chandler says, sign the contract. It's been there for a while. Primus is saying, what's he waiting for? And we know Chandler's already with Bellator. Didn't he decide that 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
What the fuck are we waiting for?
I don't know.
Like, replay that fight and let's find out if Primus is for real. He's undefeated and beat Chandler. I give him his props. You know, because what happened in New York, obviously Chandler has his version. Primus has his version. Or let's find out if Chandler wins and maybe they can build a trilogy. But what takes so long to book some fights? Like, on the one hand,
Bellator needs to step in.
Yeah, Bellator in a few days is gonna have a great card in San Jose. Sometimes they do some stuff that's amazing. They have, you know, where they outside the box thinking, and they have some great fights. And we come in here going, wow, what a night. And then there's other times that they really, really frustrate me. This is one of them.
They need to step in as a promotion because you got one guy. Actually, both guys are telling each other, "You don't want it. You don't want it. You're the one that's running away." Like, all right, well, somebody has to step in and tell the truth. Bellator needs to do that. Otherwise, we're going to hear so much about this that we're going to get turned off about it. We're just going to say, I don't care anymore.
Shout out to Johnny Nunez from Extreme Couture, who also got a win over Josh Wick. Unanimous decision across the board. All right, guys, I'm going to turn it over to the calls, but is there something you want like to say, chime in on anything that I discussed here with these main card summary of Bellator 205 or the prelim summary on UFC Fight Night 137?
Well, you kind of talked about what I wanted to talk about, and it was just AJ McKee, kind of the emergence of him and just saying, I'm here. Like, he believes everything that he says. He's getting better every single time. They got a gem with that kid.
Mm-hmm. You made 2 passes at it, but I was chomping at the bit, man. As a friend, former teammate, former coach, and as well, person is header photo here on the Protect Connect podcast at the PYM podcast on Twitter if you want to see one of my favorite photos of mixed martial arts taken by Rich Castro. Evan Dunham choking me out with a head and arm choke. Got a few words on Evan Dunham. Just wanted to say real quick.
Yep.
Just big fan of his. A really underrated guy. I don't know why. I'm a fan of these journeyman guys like the Evan Dunhams, the Jim Millers of the world who just – I love them so much. They bring it every time, but you almost feel like they didn't get their due, whether, you know, you were around at the time of the hardcores, you know, and watching in the golden era, so to speak, or even, you know, these more newer fans coming to the sport now can really appreciate how good, how meaningful, you know, these guys were. And what sucks about the common thread about liking a lot of these workmen kind of journeymen, and I don't say that in a negative way, by the way, I mean in a complimentary way. It's hard to be a journeyman in one of the most ruthless, unforgiving sports in the most ruthless, unforgiving division, is they seem to just take fights and things that I don't know why they take, and I don't know, just a crazy murderer's row. And I wish that, you know, kind of they were sentimenting on the broadcast that Evan took it somewhere aside from Brazil. You know, he doesn't have very, very good history going against southpaws in Brazil. A very notable fight that Evan was a guy that a lot of fights could have gone his way. The fight I'm mentioning is Rafael dos Anjos. Just listen to this, guys. Went undefeated, gets into the UFC, goes on a 1, 2, 3, 4-fight winning streak over Per Eklund, Marcus Aurelio, Efrain Escudero with that crazy submission win, Tyson Griffin in a crazy war. Sean Sherk, he loses to Sean Sherk in a split decision where, let's be honest, that was one of the ones where people can say robbery, actually, and I will say that. That was one of those ones where it was ridiculous. Then through, you know, he's still being promoted as the guy, though. UFC doesn't count that as a loss. They're doing that thing, especially back in the day, how they used to run things. They're still giving him the push. But I forget who he's supposed to face. Drops off last minute. Who comes in? A streaking. Last time, unfortunately for him, that he was streaking, Melvin Guillard. Knocks him out. Right? Okay, that's a legitimate loss. Comes back, beats Shamar Bailey, beats Nick Lentz, doctor stoppage. Fights TJ Grant, who made it to a world title shot, was on TJ Grant undefeated to this day at lightweight, TJ Grant. And that's another fight. You could argue Dunham won, but Dunham had a crazy cut that he sustained in that fight. And I think that let the judges, but Dunham actually outstruck him, got more takedowns, and was the pressuring guy moving forward. Comes back, beats T-Bow. Not robbery, but a decision that pretty close to it that could have gone his way in Brazil. Yeah. Dos Anjos, no, this was in Brazil.
Was it?
Yep, and then so you look at it, he could have arguably, you know, minus that Guillard kind of hiccup, could have been undefeated through his whole career and UFC run up until this point. Then he gets murderer's row. You know, if TJ Grant T-Bow. Dos Anjos wasn't already a murderer's row. Oh, well, let's give him Donald Cerrone next. Let's give him Edson Barboza next. Granted, he loses both those fights, but then goes on and pulls another crazy win streak that he was technically on until the Alvin Mercier fight where, he lost a body shot, and again, Francisco Tronaldo body shot. I'm sorry, I just had to go through his resume speedily there because he's like one of those guys where you look at like a couple decisions. We talk about this all the time on the show, guys. Couple decisions don't go your way. It trajects your whole career. I mean, those are former and future world champions that he lost those decisions that could have arguably gone his way.
Where was the Thibault fight, to be exact?
The Thibault fight was here. Yeah, that was
was here. Okay,
that was
like,
Aldo Edgar.
Did they fight right next to his wife?
Sorry, I was
okay.
And his dad or his family. Wow. I was in between both of them.
I think our cousin Ugo was here for that one. I think we were discussing.
Yeah, you guys were in a different spot.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I know it's really a random argument to make, but I just had to put that out there for the guy. These guys.
I do remember the Sherk fight being that I thought Dunham won. I just wasn't sure if it was a robbery or not. But I know you've watched a lot of footage, so man, I want to go back and rewatch that one.
The crowd was going crazy too, and the crowd was actually more of a Sherk fan. I mean, Sherk was the guy with the name. He was the former champion.
Right.
Dunham wasn't a known product then. I mean, he never made it to the star level anyways. But even back then, so it was crazy. You watched even the crowd turn, and you couldn't even get the post fight interviews. One of those post fight interviews too, where you almost feel bad for the guy because the guy that won, it's not his fault. The judges gave it to him, but you could tell there's that guilt there. Like, yeah, it was a close fight. It was one of those.
Let's blast through some calls. Kevin in Chicago, start things off. What's up, Kevin?
What's up, guys? Yeah, so I just thought this card, I thought it was the worst card of the year, honestly. I just thought a bunch of old fighters that should be retired, like Hendon Barao. He's totally done. I mean, his wrestling looked so good. He was able to control the guy, using that wrist control, dominate, and then he didn't go for one takedown in the second round. I think he just fighting scared. He doesn't want to get tired. That's what it comes down to. And then he got guys like Chase Sherman. That guy's a bum. I don't care how exciting he is. He's just really bad. And then you got guys like Sam Alvey, who he's got no killer instinct. He likes to sit up against the cage and counter. I think he even had Minotauro hurt one time. It didn't even attack. He just went back right to the cage. And besides the main event, I thought that entire card was terrible. But besides that, I want to talk about this press conference with Conor McGregor and Khabib. I just wasn't excited for it because I knew it was going to be the same thing. Conor getting loud and belligerent, Khabib being cool, calm, and collected. But at least he did call out Ali Abaziz. I think that was one thing he did do that should get more attention, because this Ali Abaziz guy, that dude is a scumbag. I don't like that dude at all. Because if you remember when he got in Jimmy Rivera's face after Jimmy Rivera just lost, I was like, who the hell is this guy getting in a fighter's face? I'm like, who is this guy? Is this guy even a fighter? Why is he getting in some dude's face? And that dude needs to get away from the sport, because he's bad news for the sport. But anyways, that's my take for today, guys. Take it easy.
All right, Kevin, thanks for the call.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you saw Dana White's reaction. So he didn't like Ali stepping in and saying anything. You could tell that's probably a conversation they've had before in the past. But the thing is, people employ Ali, and a lot of them do. And they don't do that just for fun. There's got to be a reason. He's got to be really good at what he does. Maybe this is something that comes along with it, where maybe a fighter might say, I wish he was a little bit more chill. But maybe things like this is what gets him that extra cash, right, for fights. I don't know, but a lot of people like him.
Well, the card did have feature some older fighters, but I was entertained.
It was a lot of finishes.
I don't care if number 1 and number 2 don't fight. I don't care if it's 49 versus 50, but the fight's entertaining, then I'm entertained. You know, when the Browns and the Jets play, I know that the two teams that are going to make it to the AFC Championship are not sitting in front of me, but yet, especially if I place a bet, the game's exciting. What were we going to say?
I'm trying to look at Kevin's complaint objectively and try. It's hard because it's like I feel like the card over-delivered. You know, I want to come to the defense of the card now. In Kevin's defense, though, I will say that this was probably one of the weaker cards of the year on paper going in. That's for sure. I don't think anybody can argue with that. You know, if Kevin were to come in with that argument, but I would argue to kind of counter a bit there, play devil's advocate. Not even play devil's advocate. I mean, it's a fact. The card had a lot of action fights. We had a couple fights that could have been fight of the night that were close. I think like Sakai Sherman actually was one of the fights that were close to fight of the night. Say
Marcos Rodriguez wasn't a bad fight either.
No, it wasn't a bad fight either. I mean, there were entertaining fights regardless of the levels or what you think of some of the fighters. I think they over-delivered in that sense. I mean, again,
I thought Thiago's pushed Oliveira. I thought Oliveira was going to smoke him.
Right.
He put up some resistance.
Right.
The other Oliveira looked great.
I don't think any of us was expecting Little Nog to throw a spin kick with his hips in the conditions that he is, but he overperformed in the sense that he went out and granted, you should have outboxed Sam Alvey being a Pan-American boxer, but if you've seen the way Little Nogueira has been moving as of late, like, yeah, he's definitely overperformed for himself.
Yeah, I think the criticism is harsh. I'm looking at a few things that stood out to me. Leites' last fight, Moraes, I thought was very technical on the ground against Ben Saunders, so much so that Ben Saunders wants to train with him in the future.
Yeah.
So I look, it wasn't the greatest card ever, but still there was finishes, and it just didn't feature some of the bigger names. And yeah, there was some slow moments along the way, but when you have all that and then a solid main event, I'm good.
Yeah.
We got to take a break though. Now we're not as pressed, huh? Huh, Danny?
Yeah. Yeah, let's take that phone call.
Okay, let's take this phone call here. Showtime in Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's yo time.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up? How you doing?
How are you?
Hi.
Good. Hey, man. Sam Alvey busted my parlays again, just like you guys were saying. He busted my parlay when he came to Nashville and fought. I think that was the night his knee or something was messed up early in the fight. So I'm with you, Gigi. He messed up the parlay, man. Messed it up bad, man. Real bad.
Yeah. He's won me some money, but there's two that I've hurt because it's come right down to the end. And I one of them, I think it was when he got hurt. Who did he fight when he hurt his foot real early and he was just hobbling around?
Yeah.
Talos
Leites.
Is the first kick he checked.
Yeah, I think that was one. And then this was another one. But I'm not holding it against them. I'm just being out in the open with all these fighters. Some of you make me money. Some of you cost me money. Hey, you don't give a shit. You're out there trying to win your fight to make your money.
Yeah.
I'm just the guy that does small parlays to have fun. But when I get right to the end, when I'm 3-0, 4-0, I'm ready to cash in. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I fall. I'm like, oh.
And that's why I've been reluctant. I was noticing when I was doing the betting articles and even on the Protect Your Neck podcast, I'm almost reluctant to give out parlay. You were asking me, George. We're having this conversation. And Showtime, I know you're a parlay guy. You know, I'm almost always giving out that caveat, no matter how good or bad I feel about it. Even if I feel good about it, I'm like, you know what? I'm against that. What saved my butt was my two value plays. Was thankfully was the over and Sakai.
Yes.
And then that was only minus 125. You weren't getting plus money, but you were getting plus money on just if you had the basic prop of an inside the distance available to you. You were getting plus money on Sergio Moraes, plus 130 inside the distance on Saunders. That cash.
Oh, there you go.
But but parlays all busted for me too. Showtime. So don't feel bad about that.
I'm gonna tell you who else, man. I was just having a. Who was I talking to? Was I talking to Lalone or Dave? I was talking to somebody. And we were talking about Barral, man. He hadn't looked the same. I heard the guy, I think that was you, Dan Tom, said 215. He really, since USADA kicked in, man, that guy hadn't looked the same, man. He really hadn't looked the same. That's not the same guy. That's a monster. That's not Barral. That was saying may have been the best fighter in the UFC at the time. That's not that guy. That's a impossible that we saw.
Dillashaw may have also just contributed. That was in 2014, and Dillashaw TKO'd him. You know, that may have actually started it.
Weight cut TKO'd him too.
Sterling, Stevens, those are some top fighters. Who knows? Maybe he just topped out after that incredible 33 or 32 fight win streak that he had. Showtime, we got to go to break though, man. Thanks for calling in. Always great to hear from you. Please let us know when you're coming in exactly, day and time, for the Junkie Gathering. We'll be right back, folks. A new brake structure here. I'm sure some of you are like, what the hell are the guys doing? But we, right now when we get to the end of the hour, we just have 60 seconds. We reset, and then we come right back. If you'll notice, a couple of the breaks were a little bit longer, but at the top of the hour, we make it up to you. So you're still getting the same amount of combat sports entertainment that we usually like to deliver. Shout out to Pam from Ireland, now in Toronto, stopping by the MMA Junkie Radio studio. Not sticking around, though, till UFC 229. I don't know about those travel arrangements there, Pam. Had you stayed one more week, you could have been here for what may be the biggest fight ever. All right, folks, we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
Two. Check me out right here, yo.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never. Business before pleasure. P. Diddy and the fam. Who you know do
That's
better.
funny.
Yeah, right. No matter what.
That is funny. All right, it's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Oh man, yeah. Goes just showed me a funny video of a man who's holding his significant other in his arms, almost like you know, on honeymoon when you take her into the hotel room for the first time. What's that called? Take him over the pedestal or
over the threshold?
Threshold.
No, not
carry
the
over the threshold.
No,
no.
No.
What is it?
Danny, you know.
I think it's called something.
It is that, right? Yeah, it is that, George.
The threshold? It ain't the
she
threshold.
Just said that.
It's not the threshold.
It is.
Now there's three.
Okay, so there's a groom and a bride. He picks her up and takes her over the threshold? I've never heard
Isn't that what it is, right?
Yeah.
You're crazy, all of you.
There's three of us.
But it doesn't matter. All three of you are crazy. Dan, is it that? Have you ever heard of that? It's something where when I hear it, I'll go, that's what it is. But it isn't the threshold.
All I know is the only wedding thing I know is you put the glass in the cloth and you step on it. But that's not.
Let me look at the YouTubers.
For everybody.
Oh, there's a bunch of geeks in there. None of them even dated a girl. How would they know what it's called? It's
I feel like I might be wrong too, but
I know you are, Goes.
Now when I get married, I want to incorporate a bunch of different traditions. Now
look, I'm gonna go into Google. Oh, will Siri know?
Pam's face sold it, and then when Danny said it is, I felt a lot more confident. But at first, I was kind of like, I think it's
when you said it, I was like, all right, Ghost is pretty smart.
Carrying a bride over the threshold when the groom carries a bride.
That's why I like that's why I like the Jewish weddings.
I apologize
because the Jewish weddings they carry
the threshold. Why the fuck's it called the threshold?
I don't know. We didn't.
That's a dumb name. That should be like something sweet and romantic. The man's picking her up. He's about to make love to her, technically for the first time, but whatever. And he's putting her over the threshold. I thought the threshold was something else. The threshold's like how much you can stomach in a fight before they stop it or something like that.
It can be traced.
Ooh, that's my threshold.
To the Roman times,
I was gonna.
This unhappy chance was avoided by carrying her through the doorway and over the threshold.
See, my guess was going to be like it was from some pagan time shit where it's like, it's like a barrier and a boundary, and you have to carry over the threshold to be on the safe side of, whatever. It's all these spirit stuff. It's
Maybe.
Chinese have a lot of that too. What I was saying is I like the Jewish weddings, man, because you get to break glass, and then you get to sit on a chair, and then all your buddies, they carry you, and they hoist you up on this chair. That was like a blast. Like, I don't know if it'd be offensive, but I would request a Jewish wedding, if I were to get married.
Just to be carried around and break glass?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I guess.
Let me be your wedding planner.
Shalom,
If that's what makes you
shalom,
happy.
shalom.
I've never been more wrong.
That's
what it is. That's what I'm hitting. That's what I'm seeing here everywhere. But I could have sworn it was called something else. What was it?
If you had to guess, what did you think it was called?
It was called something like
Just take a guess. Are you going to say something silly or?
No. I don't have a vocabulary where I can just throw these words out. But it's like, he carries her over the.
George is so in your face that when he came at me like that, I actually thought I was wrong.
Just because, you know why? That word threshold, we use it in MMA. We'll go, hey, did Herb stop it too quick? Oh, well, I got one of those thresholds where I can take punish.
True.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm talking about like blood and punches.
Well, that makes sense. Marriage can be punishment too. So
it can be. Yeah, maybe you're right. All right, but see, I admit when I'm wrong. I'm not one of those guys that
yeah, but we basically have to get a knife and corner you. And
so Gigi, you would essentially be.
But I admit it.
So Gigi, you'd be tripping over your threshold because it's so high.
What's that?
Would you be tripping over your threshold because it's so proverbially high? You keep it so high.
I trip because I have a bad knee and I couldn't carry the girl probably. But all right, where are we at here? What do we got to do? We got to talk to Fernanda at 11:15 a.m. Pacific. We got to talk to Marco.
I just pictured somebody being too big that you have to put him on the back like Yoda to carry through.
No, I could carry Juliet, but I really have a bad knee, so that's what I was saying. I'd probably trip Dan, honestly.
I don't think I could carry a girl either.
Really?
Depends on the girl.
Yeah, I mean trust me, you'll find.
But what do? You got to
carry over the threshold.
I mean, when you get there, she's gonna go.
Well, you can potato sack it.
Nah, you can't. You got to do it that way. That's an insult to her.
Then do it.
Huh?
Then you got to do it.
Yeah, but what if you drop her? You hit her head on the way.
Then don't do it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you do? What's the situation?
You got to do it. You just got to do it. Either that, or if you honestly can't, then you just don't even go down that road.
What do you say? That's not my thing.
Like put some rose petals down and say this is Goza's style or something like that. And there's the bottle of champagne waiting for you, and feed her strawberries with chocolate on them as she walks in, and she won't even. She'll forget.
I was gonna say you guys are going down careful territory here. You're talking about carrying women, and you'd be kind of sensitive. And I was gonna say careful, guys. But then you know what? As someone who's been on some online dating apps lately, I'm realizing there's some hype preferences out there. The women's lady, the normal ones.
You gotta carry people on Grindr or what?
I'm just thinking. Yeah. There's that too, but. Now you threw me off. If girls have a certain thing on height. Does that mean what does that allow us? Is that what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I think there should be some leniency.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you ask them about that, and they actually have logic behind it. Like, well, we want as women, we want a sense of security. We want to feel like our man can protect us. And I 100% get that. Even though I'm not a woman, I wouldn't presume to understand. I understand that theory. But with that same theory, is that a two-way street?
Curves, and I
think so.
What do you like on those 4 days of the week where women use that excuse to just be completely outrageous? And
now you guys got me thinking about another saying because we're retracing sayings now. What's that? Where does that saying come from? Where I can only trust someone as far as I can throw them.
Yeah, women need to chill out a little bit because I've seen a lot of confrontations and never have I seen a man say, "I don't know, that dude looks like he could carry a few girls. I better leave him alone."
Yeah, it's true.
That can't be the measurement.
That is true. That can't be the measurement. Yeah, that can't be the measurement of protect. If you can carry the woman, I can protect you.
I still can't.
You know how this all started?
What?
It was because you were trying to explain the video of the guy carrying the girl.
Oh yeah.
So we never finished.
So what happened was in the NFL, there's these guys that are sacking the quarterback, and they're no longer spearing them. They're no longer attacking the knees. They're actually they're leading the tackle with their shoulder in the chest, but I guess they're landing on them, thereby putting their weight, and I guess that's part of the foul that the NFL is interpreting. And it is fucking ridiculous. It's just not football. I don't know what they got to do. I know that for this season, we're fucked, and that's the rules, so the players have to adjust. But literally, this sucks, man, and everyone's on the same side of this. The players, the coaches, the media, the fans. But the officials have to stick with it. I don't know if I've ever heard of something switching mid-season, but the competition committee needs to look at it next year because it's ridiculous. It sucks.
It's not
man.
The game anymore.
It is, yeah, and yeah.
Sounds like NFL changes their rules a whole lot more than MMA does. Is there
every year they look at it.
Every year there's at least like
what
5,
makes sense
right?
and what doesn't.
And
they're very good about going. Yeah, they're very 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 organized, and they're very good about going. Hey guys, this didn't work. We blew it. Here, let's tweak it. And have you ever heard when the official stands in the middle of the field and he turns on the mic and he says, holding number 23, from the spot of the foul or 15 yards, it now leads to a first down. They're very thorough in how they explain, so that when they change it so that the referee can explain to the coaches, but also explain to the fans, get it done within 3-4 seconds, and then keep the game moving. NFL's really, really good about doing that. And they all get together, and it's called the competition committee, and they look at these things. In MMA, we enacted the 2017 rules. Excuse me. And there's some commissions that just, nah, we're still going with the old ones.
That's stupid.
There's some commissions that go, we like some of those, but we're still going with the old ones. So guess what? Some hybrid rules. Although that one's not as common now. I think most of them have started to jump into the 2017 rules. But there are some commissions that still haven't adopted the 2017 rules, and we're in 2018 going on 2019. And that just can't be. So we told Dana White, or I did actually, shout out to myself, it was at a junkie gathering. We had a Q&A with him, right?
Yeah.
And
that's where he called us monkeys.
Did he?
Yeah, remember he goes, ask those two monkeys over there. They're the ones that vote. And that's when we got to check them. And we said, no, we don't vote on your ranking.
Oh, he got checked a couple times. And I go, what are you waiting for to have your own officials? He goes, nah, well, he goes, imagine what they would say, about us and influencing outcomes. I'm like, but you're 20 years, I think you're 22 years in. It was 3 years ago. And your reputation now precedes you. So just like the NFL, hire your own. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it. Unless you deep down feel like you're hiding something or you're trying to manipulate something, and I'm sure you don't, much less would admit it. And he actually goes, yeah, maybe you're right, We're beyond all that. I mean, you're going to let a couple idiots on Twitter go, oh, yeah, the fix is in, and this is what we thought, and conspiracies and this and that. No, man. Those are just a select group of whiners that don't matter. All right? Most fans want to get it right. Most fans will tell you, Herb fucked up, or Herb messed up, or I don't agree with Herb, or whatever degree of accusation you want to give him.
Right.
But if you stop him and go, is Herb a good ref? Yes, he's a good ref.
Yeah.
Because everyone can have a bad day.
Yes.
Everyone can make a mistake or whatever. But in the end, are the right people making the right decisions? Do you trust them after all these years? And I think we can all agree that we can. That's why if the UFC did that, created their own committee of referees and judges and, and just train them every year on what they want, but publicly stated, this is what we're working on, these are how the rules are going to be interpreted, blah, 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 I think it would be good for the sport. Now, that said, we had a controversy with Eric Anders and Thiago Santos that we haven't really touched on. We got to do this quick. A mouthpiece fell out. And I've seen different versions of what a referee can do.
Yes.
One, you get to the end of the round, and then you give it to him on the way in. Two, you stop the action when there's a break in the action, not while there's momentum or engagement or anything that's happening. And three is what Mark Goddard did, which is really not wait for that and go, wait. And, and then he kind of like shoved it in his mouth and brought them back. But I could have sworn within all that, Santos got an elbow in or a punch, and then he went, my bad, which I don't really want to fault him. But if he did, good on you, Santos, because you're playing the game.
Right.
And I felt like that, along with then Eric Anders going in and getting the other punishment and maybe some questionable elbows, maybe we could have got ourselves to the fourth round. And who knows what would have happened. Now, I don't think it would have changed the outcome because I think Santos actually was outlasting Anders and probably winning the fight. But we still don't know. And now, okay, I keep saying that said, but there's got to be another transition. When I went back and looked at it, those elbows we were talking about, I have to remind myself, GG's sitting at home like this, belly hanging out, beer in hand, going, hey, look at that, right? I got the benefit of the replay and whatever. As I'm watching, I see Mark Goddard. We'll say if you're watching on the camera, Dan is Anders, and his laptop is Santos. And so the laptop is raining strikes on him or whatever, and there's old Goddard right there watching the action. Nobody had a better view than Goddard. Who am I to say, hey, that hit him in the back of the head, when Goddard's right there seeing where the strike landed, and I trust Mark Goddard. So that's all I can send out is a tweet of what I thought I saw, because I know others can share my opinion because they had the same angle. But really, you got to trust in Goddard, and you got to trust in these referees as well. And that's just the call, and we all just move on from that. Because remember, we're all emotional. I like Eric Anders. He's my brother. He's my cousin. He's my teammate. He's my this. I bet on him. I like people from Alabama. There's all these reasons for why we want to, want somebody to win. But really, in the end, Mark Goddard's not worried about that. He's just worried about getting it right. But
I thought the mouthpiece part was
circling
bad.
back, what I like about what Goddard did is he's following what John McCarthy has taught. Have you noticed the referees are all kind of using the same mechanics? They're all in the same position of where they should be.
Right.
They're talking to them, explaining to them what they need out of them, or they're going to break the fight, or end the fight. The way they separate them when there's a cup check or an eye poke. I love that. All those mechanics, and I think they've taken some of that from what we've seen in the great sport of the NFL, and that's the process of how to get to there. We're getting less and less away from those controversies. All right, I know we have to take a break in just a second, but Marco can get it done. I trust him. Get it done quick, Marco. What's on your mind, buddy?
Hey, Marco from Ecuador, ¿qué pasó? Whatever happened with
Not much, man. How are you doing?
Whatever happened to the old Neanderthal will grabbing a girl by the hair and drag her to the cave, man? There is no more romanticism anymore.
What?
The old Neanderthal way of grabbing a girl by the hair and drag her to the cave. What happened with that?
Like caveman.
Okay.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick.
It's a more nostalgic time for Marco. Go ahead.
There was 14 fights on this freaking card. 11 Brazilians won, 1 draw, and 2 Americans won, or 2 guys not Brazilian. Don't go to Brazil, guys, especially when it's so slanted like that. Barral, TJ Dillashaw freaking took his soul, dude. Those 2 fights with Dillashaw, man, that's my assessment on that. And Kevin from Chicago, you are the new freaking Dan from Oregon. All the fighters are bombs, and the McGregor freaking press conference sucked. And Dia de la Fission's comeback. Oh, wait, on that I agree with you. Peace out.
All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 90, Fight Nation 93. We'll be right back. We'll be talking to Fernanda Prates from MMA Junkie.
Say things in this cool voice. They get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Man, he is on point with the music today. I like this one too.
Yeah?
This is
Anything you got to say about that, Dan?
birthday selection.
That's right.
Oh, is it?
Birthday selection.
This is your own choosing, or Danny chose it for you?
No, I chose it.
Nice.
They're all his this is his birthday present. He's picking all the music.
All right.
That'd be a horrible present if I had Danny pick my own music.
All right. Out in Sao Paulo, Brazil, we had Fernanda Prates covering the event for us. She did a great job. If you look at the front page of MMA Junkie, a lot of them have her byline or her byline with somebody else. So first of all, great job, Fernanda. Thank you for joining us on the show. As always, how you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I was listening to you guys talking about the event when you guys first started off the show, so I think you guys are really on point with a lot of the stuff you said, but I gotta correct something. You totally botched one name.
Me, Goes, or Dan?
You, Eliseu Zaleski.
What did I say?
Just like it was in my mind, like I just had to say it.
Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos. All right. Yeah, that's a tough one for me, but hey, he looked pretty good. And Dan's right. Dan pointed out this past week he's not getting any shine, and he's like 5-0 in the UFC. And I think it's time that they kind of feature him somewhere other than Fight Pass.
It's bizarre. I can't even understand, because the guy's got the wins. He's got the super exciting style, and he was supposed to fight Bilal Muhammad, mind you. So that's not a preliminary card fight by any means, in my opinion. He ended up fighting a newcomer, but that was really short notice. I hope he gets some shine after this one. I mean, he took on a newcomer, and Luigi, that was not his division. He looked really small, so there's that. But just he made a statement that, you know, when you're fighting someone who's just coming in, like, you have to really, really put on the type of performance that Eliseu did. So I'm just thinking that if they don't give him attention now, I mean, when will they ever? And he even had the call already when they talked to him afterwards. You guys know how we always complain when they don't have the call out. He had the call out, so hopefully that will be enough to get it going, to make things a little bit better for him moving forward.
Fernando, over here, a lot of fighters are still having trouble with adapting to the fact that us media and even the UFC are referring to the sport as sports entertainment. What about in Brazil? Are they kind of getting it? Are they realizing, wait a minute, I may have to develop a shtick or a look or improve my smack talk either online or whatever? Is it filtering down south as well for them, or do they still see it more as a sport and us crazy Americans are maybe too coddled up next to pro wrestling?
I think they see it. I get a lot. I ask this a lot, you know, especially with quieter guys. Like Eliseu himself, he was just saying that, you know, I call out Robert Lawler, but I'm not going to, like, call his mom names. Like, that's just not his style. And I get that I get different reactions from fighters, but a lot of it is really, you know, I'm not going to betray my personality, and if it's not authentic or organic, like, I'm not going to be able to do it. One of those guys is Thiago Santos, I mean, the headliner. He's been we talked a lot about this throughout his career because I've been following it from the get-go. He's physically imposing, but he's a very soft-spoken type guy. Like, he's not going to come out calling you names. You saw how he addressed Saunders and even Genie at first. Like, he's not going to just go out there and start calling people names to get things happening for him, and that's just how he is. So I think people realize that it can get you places, but what I get a lot from a lot of them is that they're just not willing to do it if it doesn't feel comfortable for them. And in Brazil, you have a lot of the guys from jiu-jitsu and things like that just really respect the tradition and the martial art, like Damian Maia, for instance, and they just feel like this is not representative of them to talk trash. So you get a little bit of all of them, but I think everybody at this point is pretty aware of, you know, what getting a little heat around your fights can do for you.
Fernanda, the Brazilian fighters they won 11 fights on Saturday night. Are they understanding, wow, it really benefits to fight at home? Like, it seems like we rise to the occasion, and the foreigners maybe just don't do as well in their travels. So does it look like more of them want to stay home, Or does it look like some of them want to just do their time and eventually get to a pay-per-view in North America, like on a Vegas card? In what direction do you see the fighters going when they talk about their future fights?
In terms of territory, like usually what we get from most fighters is just I'll fight anywhere. Like it's not really, it's hard for me to hear Brazilian guys. Like they'll say they like it here because of the crowd and the energy and things like that. And I think guys like Little Nog, like they really thrive. They really enjoy that. Nog was just making it a whole thing of fighting in Brazil. He was, he had a bunch of injuries and horrible things happening to him throughout camp, and he wanted it mostly, I think, because it was in Brazil. So that's a factor, but I don't see a lot of them just being like, putting in the request or things like that. I think there's an emotional thing of getting to see your crowd and getting to see your family with a few guys. Charles Oliveira, he had never fought in Brazil, in São Paulo, sorry, he fought in Brazil, but he's from São Paulo, he never fought there. And he was one guy who was really, insisting on getting this fight there. But I don't know if they really, honestly, like I don't know, I'll have to talk to them more about it, but if they view it as a big advantage. I think traveling is always a little bit of a hassle, especially when you have to make weight and you have to take the long flights, but I don't really see it as something that they see as a huge disadvantage of having to take the trip.
Mm-hmm. All right, Goes, what do you have for Fernanda?
I'm going to be a little selfish and ask her something outside of this. First of all, happy birthday. Your birthday wasn't too long ago. And
thank you. Isn't yours today?
It was yesterday. We're both late.
So happy birthday to you, too. Go on.
Thank you. Amanda Nunes and Cyborg. How is that being taken over there in Brazil? Are lines starting to be drawn? Do they just love them both? How is that going to work out?
I think Chris is a more well-liked fighter in general. I'm not really sure why. I think they have known who she is longer, so maybe there's a part. There's the fact that her style of fighting is very easy to digest. It's very easy to understand. It's very easy for anyone to really appreciate Chris Cyborg's destruction. While Amanda is the type of fighter that, you have to understand a little bit more. She's not going to come out knocking out everyone like Chris did. So there's less of, I guess, some mythology around her than there is for Cyborg. I don't know if I'm answering your question, because that wasn't exactly it. But, in general, I just feel like people are more, in terms of just personality, and if they have to be on someone's side, I'd say Chris Cyborg is a more popular character here. For sure, I say that with some confidence. I've had a conversation before with during like a UFC live streaming type thing, and we were talking about women fighters who have really, made an impact. And I think that Chris still stands out more than Amanda, even though she's been in the UFC for a lot less time in that sense. Amanda still has ways to grow in terms of her popularity here.
Fernanda, people like Renan Barão right now, things have dropped off for him. Thales Leites just announced his retirement. Vitor Belfort not too long ago. The new stars that are coming in and replenishing these people, Brazilian stars, are the fans really starting to take to some of this new crop? And do you think it can be just as good as the crop before?
Just as good. It's so hard to gauge because the scene is so much different. There was a big UFC craze here a while back, and that's died down. It's more the casual fans are, we don't have as many anymore. Now it's more of a sport for people who really appreciate it. So the dynamics are different. You can't really compare what happened then to what happens now. Even the novelty feel of it, the scene is totally different. But we do have some stars that are really getting some traction. Like Paulo Costa is a guy who is really, really getting popular, and we know he does well with our audiences and everything like that. So, he to me would be one example of a guy who's really coming up and people are paying attention. Whether they'll, replace Vitor, like guys like Vitor or Anderson, who we know isn't retired and has in fact, just got his issue with his kind of solved, but I don't think nobody's going to be able to replace them in terms of popularity, to be honest. It's just a different type of appreciation, really.
Dan, Tom, what do you have for Fernanda Pratis?
Hey, Fernanda, just, I guess, two questions that are kind of based a little more on hearsay, where someone like yourself being on the ground would probably have a lot more insight on. And I brought it up earlier on the show, and I'm a big little Nogueira fan, but I feel like his big brother missed an opportunity to perhaps hit his retirement against Brendan Schaub of that big win in Brazil. Maybe it wasn't the same magnitude, but it felt like a big moment for Little Nog last Saturday. And from what the production was sharing, his camp, there was no mention in his camp of retirement or this being a retirement fight. But was there any sentiments that you picked up on the ground, whether it be supporters, media, or anybody from his camp about his future?
I think everybody was just, since the word retirement was so present in this card, I saw that you mentioned, well, Tylis and Evan Dunham both retired. And I think a lot of people were kind of lumping Little Nog in there, especially with the bad results. And I'd asked him flat out, when we talked a while back, a couple of months ago, they had a media day, and what he said was that this fight was an important one. He wasn't, I'll retire if I lose, but he said that it would be an important one to gauge where he'd be able to go afterwards. Then on fight week, I talked to him again, and he said, no, my plan is to continue on, but he had such a rough camp, man. Like, he told me he had a knee injury like a month ago, and that was on camera, and I was like, you're sure you're sharing that with me? He was like, yeah, I had a knee injury. It wasn't that bad. He was able to heal it up with physical therapy, but that's what I gathered from it. Then on the post-fight press conference, he was like, I had a bad bacterial infection. I was in the hospital with antibiotics. I was super heavy, and the antibiotics made it worse. So, it's natural that we're thinking about this because this guy's coming after 2 years. He's 42. His brother's retired, and he's had this nightmare camp. So I think everybody was just kind of like, I wonder if getting a loss here, a bad one, is going to mean retirement. But he didn't. He got a really great win, unexpected for me, to be perfectly honest. And afterwards, at the post-fight press conference, he said he would like to keep going. And I asked him if it bothered him that we asked about retirement all the time. And that was like very meta because I asked him all the time. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, I get it. I mean, I'm 42. This is something that I know is going to come up, but right now I want to keep going. So that's really what we have on Little Nog's retirement. And I remember he had 4 fights left on his contract. So I'm not sure if this one counts. If he now has 3, but as it stands, he still has fights left on his contract. He said something about wanting to fight until the end of the year. Didn't give out a name, but, he's feeling good enough that he wants to do that. So I think we're going to have around at least for a little while longer. But the retirement sentiment from everybody else is definitely there.
Gotcha. And one last quick one. 2 picks I was wrong at because there wasn't a big sample size on a lot of these newcomers, especially the ladies from Brazil. But they moved up the ranks to the unbeaten. That was Marina Rodriguez and Mayra Bueno Silva. Any random hype behind the scene about these girls or anything you could share with us that's not listed on paper?
Dude, not at all. And that was they were just big surprises because. I'll start with Mayra. Everybody was impressed with what they did at Dana White's Contender Series, right? Mm-hmm. And Mayra, she beat a lot of the big girls here in the local scene, but I, to be honest, wasn't that aware of them until Dana White's Contender Series. So Mayra, she actually hurt her knee bad early in the fight. She sat in the first takedown. So she comes into the media room in a wheelchair after getting the submission win. With we don't even know what's wrong with her knee, but it could have been something serious. So that was pretty impressive. She was on cloud 9 after the win, even with a possible injury. She was just really, really excited about it. And Marina, I think, she was really thrown to the wolves there because Ronda could have been a horrible matchup for her. I mean, I thought Ronda was going to stifle her, just make it, I saw the matchup. I was like, oh no, why kill Marina so early? She has all this potential. And she hung in there, got the draw. Some people think she won. She came backstage, super well-spoken, super aware, has a really good head, very aware of her flaws, says she knows that she has a lot to grow, especially on the wrestling, and wants to work on that, but, was overall happy with her performance, was overall happy with the draw, got it over a ranked opponent, an experienced opponent, so she had every reason to be happy. But I think both of them just really, really stamped, that the 2 made the most of their time to shine there for sure.
Fernanda, when are we going to see you in the United States, Las Vegas to be more specific?
Whenever our bosses want to send me. Really.
All right.
Yeah, I'd love to, but as you know, you guys are pretty well stocked there in the U.S., but
yeah.
I'd love to go and join you guys in studio sometime.
Yeah, for sure. We want to do that, and I thought maybe with UFC 229 being pretty big, or maybe even at the end of the year, maybe see if you can volunteer your name, and maybe they'll bring you this way. I mean, I know a lot of the times the guys have gone that way, but maybe you can try and get down here. Or we'd love to have you, especially here for Amanda versus Cyborg.
Maybe someone will get injured, and I can step in on short notice. I mean, I'll stay in shape, right on weight. Just waiting for that call, guys.
All right. Thanks for joining us here. And, again, great coverage this week of UFC Fight Night 137 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Hopefully it didn't distract you much, and you got to at least enjoy your birthday along the way, too.
I did, and thank you guys very much for having me anytime.
Great work, Fernanda.
Take care, Fernanda. Bye-bye. All right, folks, give her a follow on Twitter at Nanda Prates. Excuse me, NandaPrates. She does a great job for us here at MMA Junkie. We're going to take a break and come back with Valentina Shevchenko. So stay close and don't touch that dial.
They were kicked off the set of The Fast and the Furious for being too loud and too good-looking. Once again, here's Gorgeous George and Goes.
Get the radio channel numbers and a link to listen to your favorite NFL, college football, or Major League Baseball teams sent right to your smart device. Just go to SiriusXM.com/sports today and click Add to My Calendar. All right, our guest here, next guest is Valentina Shevchenko, one of the top female fighters in the world, bar none, don't worry about this weight class, that weight class, or whatever. I've seen her fight many times, and I firmly believe she could do good at any of the weight classes that she prefers to fight in. Right now, her focus is 125 pounds. That's the flyweight division. As you know, a few weeks ago, she was to challenge Nico Montano, and unfortunately, the champion had a bad weight cut, was rushed to the hospital. The fight was canceled, and now that title is vacant. Valentina, now who knows her opponent, and that fight's been set, and she'll be fighting Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the former UFC strawweight champion. They'll be fighting for the vacant UFC flyweight title on December 8th in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. She joins us now on the hotline. Hello, Valentina. How you doing?
Hello, George. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Great to hear. And unfortunate what happened a few weeks ago in Dallas, but we're past that, and now we know that you have something to look forward to. That's December 8th in Canada. Valentina, is that who you wanted? Is that the matchup what you wanted, or did you think that another young lady either deserved it or you would have preferred that to be your matchup?
I'm glad that UFC came up with this decision because now we can be like 100% sure that this fight will happen because Joanna, she's professional. She will do everything like right to prepare her good for the fight, and I can be more relaxed without thinking, oh, maybe it will be someone else in the final minute. Opponent will drop off, and they will have to find replacement, so I will have to prepare for someone else. No, now I can be more relaxed and prepare just exactly for Joanna.
And obviously, I don't want to jinx this. I don't believe in them. Other people do. But would you not say that it makes sense to also have two other quality flyweights on this card as well, along with you and Joanna?
Can you specify?
Yeah, like maybe Caitlin Chukagian versus Liz Carmouche, also on the card, as an insurance for this vacant title fight that's going to take place, so that we don't have, in case somebody were unable to fight, they can just choose somebody that's already on the card to move up and fight for the vacant title. So would you prefer that they have two other ladies also on the card, matched up?
It's every time good to have some backup because you never know what can happen. Mm-hmm. But if something happened, you will have something to cover because that is what happened last time, and it was so unexpected. Looks like unexpected for everyone that they could not find any replacement in so short notice, and. But I said that it probably would happen. But anytime it will be very nice to have some kind of backup. So let's see what will go. And actually, it doesn't matter for me because I will prepare and I will be ready for everyone. Doesn't matter what will happen. My only one thought that I hope will happen is the fight. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter who.
Where will you set up your camp? It seems like you're either in Key West, Florida, or off the coast of Texas, or Las Vegas. You're a world traveler, Valentina, but I imagine you want to maybe set up camp in a set city for this fight, the most important one probably of your career.
Yes, we are thinking about it right now. Right now we are in Texas and thinking to go back to Las Vegas, maybe in October, by the end of October. But we are still have plenty of time, and my team, we are thinking about the perfect location for my training camp to have everything good, but also we have to consider that my sister Antonina, she will fight 1 week earlier than me on November 30. So it's a lot of things that we have to think about because she's fighting in Las Vegas, and we have to compare everything to have like good quality of training for me and for her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you guys ever missed each other's fights? Have you guys always been in each other's corner, or at least present in the same city and arena when you fight?
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes Antonina can fight. Sometimes I cannot. So sometimes we had a similar situation like this. But for this time, I don't see something can appear that we will not be on the fight of each other.
Does that mean your coaching team might need to expand a little bit aside from Coach Pavo, or is everything still done under his watch for both of you?
Under his watch, 100%, and we will be training. Only he is who are preparing me and Antonina, because we know if he is preparing us, it will be the best preparations that we have. So that's why I'm thinking that. That's why I'm talking about. We have to measure everything good to choose the perfect location of training camp for both of us.
I see. All right. Valentina Shevchenko joining us here on the hotline. She fights in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, former Muay Thai champion, now currently kicking ass in the UFC's Bantamweight division, the Flyweight division, and now her matchup is set for the UFC, the vacant Flyweight title, on December 8th in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Now, underneath this fight booking, you have another title fight of Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega. So, Toronto, you guys are lucky, man. You're getting 2 title fights. Goes, what do you have for Valentina?
Valentina, George brought it up, former Muay Thai champion, and under Muay Thai is where you have fought Joanna before in the past. My question to you is, did those fights happen way too long ago where you can't really use any of that experience in mixed martial arts with her, or are there some things that you can maybe learn that you learned from that you can apply?
Of course, every experience is experience. You can use, doesn't matter how long it was. We fought with Joanna 2006, 2007, and 2008 in World Championships, and we fought in weight class. It's similar, 125 pounds. It's 57 kilograms. So, before I fought in this weight class, so we had our history with Joanna that I had. But when I moved up to 60 kilograms, Joanna after this could fight, could win several world championships. So every experience is experience. I know Joanna, what her style. I saw her fight, recent fights and everything. So she's a good fighter. She's very high level striker. But in Muay Thai, even in Muay Thai, when we are fighting stand up fights, even there we do the same Muay Thai style, but we have different style fighting in Muay Thai as well, because in Muay Thai there is a definition between Thai people. They define their fighters for the styles. Some of them it's very frontal fighter, it's aggressive fighter, every time going forward. And Joanna, she's like this, and she's throwing a lot of punch, a lot of kicks, and she every time going forward. I can do both. I can fight in the middle distance, in the close distance, in the high distance. So I can as well use all angles, turning kicks, spinning kicks, everything. So this is, I think, the more advantage that I have, because I have more wide technique that I can choose for her. That's why it will be like no difference for me. I will prepare good for her, and it will be good fight.
You know, it didn't work out with Nico Montano, but do you feel like eventually at some point that fight will happen, or has everything just been so bad that you just don't want any part of that anymore?
You know, speaking about Nico, I'm not even sure that she will ever come back to the fight, because you know some people they have their limits, like ceiling, and they are never going over this ceiling. So maybe it was the thought for her, like, and she will be happy for the rest of her days with this that she already took. And I'm not really sure that she ever will go back and fight for her anywhere, just fight in general.
Strong statement from Valentina Shevchenko. All right. Let's go to Dan Tom, our fight analyst. Dan, what do you have for Valentina Shevchenko?
Hey, Valentina. I was just curious. Obviously, you have plenty of experience fighting Amanda Nunes, and, of course, she's fighting Chris Cyborg. But you also recently spent some time training with Chris Cyborg, no? And if you have or haven't, I was just curious of what your prediction is of how you see that fight going between Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes.
We didn't have training with Chris yet, but I think in the future we will have some. And speaking about my fight with Nunes, I'm not consider me lost on that fight, and everyone who can watch this fight, like from the beginning to the end, they can score it, and it will be scored on my side. And only this one throw that she did, and even it was her throw. I started this throw, but it was the fifth round, and she was already slippery, and her head just slipped out from my side, and she took my back. So even not she was doing this throw, I was starting this throw. It was my throw. But even if we are speaking about just one throw against like more rounds that I won by striking, it's not the right decision. So I'm not considering me lost this fight. And going back to Chris, I think Chris, she will win this fight, and she will do great, like everything like she was doing before, the same. Because you know, Chris Cyborg, I respect her very much like a fighter, because we have things like we have spirit in common. Because she is not a young fighter, she's not just like who started recently. Same as me, I started to fight in MMA in 2002, and in 2003 I already won my first title, world title in MMA in South Korea, and in 2005 I defended again. So this is like a spirit of not old fighters, but who started it long time ago. This is what we have in common. So, like I said, I think it will be a good fight, but Chris, she will win it without no doubt.
Valentina, I don't want you to train with Chris. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I want you to fight Chris. Now I know you got to focus on Joanna right now, and then title defenses. That way the division gets going. But in about a year, 18 months, 2 years, I feel like Chris will say something along the lines of, you know, unless there's another fight, I'm going to retire. Nobody can beat me, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to see someone from 2 weight classes down come up and challenge that champion. We always see somebody move 1 weight class, but I'd love to see you versus Chris someday. And so then after you guys fight, you guys can be best friends and go to lunches and all that. But for now, I still want to keep you guys apart just in case you guys would ever fight.
You are saying very right. I'm focusing right now in 125 weight class, and I'm focusing right now on my next fight with Joanna. And this is everything what I think about right now. And I'm not thinking like 1 year from here, 2 years from here. I'm thinking like step by step. I will do my steps, and then we'll see what happens else. So for me, number one right now is my preparation for December 8th.
Yep, I can't wait. I felt so terrible over what happened in Dallas, but I guess there's no sense in going back because we can't rewrite the history books. What's done is done. Now we have this fight. I want to wish you the best of luck so that you and your sister have a safe camp, wherever it may be. Of course, if you're in Vegas and you have an off day, we'd love to pull you guys in and chat with you some more about fighting and life and Peruvian food and things like that. But in the meantime, stay safe, my friend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for the time here on MMA Junkie Radio, as always.
Thank you very much, guys. Every time having a lot of pleasure speaking with you, and having good day, great day for you too.
Thank you, Valentina. All right. Say hi to the coach. Say hi to your sister and Roger. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. That's one of the best in the business. That's Valentina Shevchenko. Lined up to fight Joanna Jędrzejczyk at UFC Fight Night, UFC 231 in Toronto, Canada on December 8th. That's going to be a great fight. Both ladies have fought before, 3 times in Muay Thai, actually, with Valentina coming out ahead each and every time. And if you know the competitor that Joanna is, you know that whether that was 2006, 2007, or whenever that was, she would love to have that back. And if you know how competitive Valentina is, you know she'd love to stay undefeated against her Polish counterpart. All right. Thank you to both of our guests, Fernanda Prates and Valentina Shevchenko, for their time. Thank you very much to the callers that called in. And, of course, Goes and Danny doing an outstanding job, as always. I, however, took it to another level. I was fantastic. All right, Goes, I think we just do our own OT, right? We don't need to go to an official OT, or are we going to do an official OT?
I think official, right?
Danny, are we doing an official OT?
I mean, Goes asked.
Okay, all right, so Sirius XM audience, you get more combat sports entertainment. The rest of you, head to youtube.com/MMA Junkie Video.
Keep on the run, I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime. If my wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing in time. I'm gonna give it everything I've got. Lady luck, please let the dice stay high.
You guys are clear for overtime.
All right, cool. All right, so then what we'll do here is basically any final thoughts, guys, on Monday's show? Before we start turning the page, you know, the fight nights aren't one of those where you hang on to topics like we did for 228, man. We were talking Tyron Woodley all into Wednesday and Thursday show and everything that came out of that, Montana being stripped. But these fight nights are a little bit more quiet, you know, and things happen, and then we move on. Same thing with Bellator. But any final thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't get overshadowed by Conor and Khabib. You know, as soon as that started to happen, I thought, oh, man, people are just going to forget about this card. But it was actually a pretty fun card. I'm glad it happened, and now it's time to focus on that big card.
Yeah, I suppose we can dive more into it if anything's still on our mind with our highs and lows that we'll be doing after the show. How about you, Dan Tom? Anything you want to speak out in regards to Monday's show to start the week?
Not much, man. We think we covered pretty much everything. Like you said, George, not much to cover on these ones. And, you know, you think we have an off week for the UFC before their most craziest time of the year when they do, you know, 9 or 10 shows and then a 9-week span. But no, there's a huge Bellator card this weekend coming up, so I'm already I'm already balls deep into the Bellator 206, man. The MMA train does not stop on this show, so we're moving forward.
Check it out. Check out what UFC or Bellator 206 has. It has a champ fight, like a super fight.
Yeah.
A champ versus champ. It's got a heated rivalry fight from the past. You mentioned, or someone mentioned, who's still fighting from the Pride era. Well, Vanderlei Silva and Quentin Rampage Jackson are, and they're going to be doing it yet again. And then you got 2 former champions as part of a Grand Prix who delivered quite a fight in their last encounter, and I'm expecting a good one in Lima Korshkov. Pico's back, so I'm pretty excited about what Bellator's got going on there.
I think Mousasi had a
weekend.
Couple Pride fights, right? Didn't he have 2?
He did have a couple, yeah. I don't know exactly how many, but he did have a couple. I would consider him. That's where I kind of met him through, was watching him through Pride. So that should be a good one. All right, let's close with the daily debate. Y'all ready for this?
Yep.
Do it.
All right, guys, here we go. After his UFC Sao Paulo win, what's the best future path for Thiago Santos? Here are your choices. We got 3 of them. Stay at light heavyweight. Move back to middleweight. Compete in both divisions. Goes?
I think he needs to stay right where he is right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about, do you guys remember back when Kelvin Gastelum had to go up weight and everybody focused on just what he's got to do to get right back down? Mm-hmm. And then after a while you kind of realize, well, hell, he's pretty good up here. Mm-hmm. I think he could do something very similar. And I would just focus on light heavyweight right now.
How about you, Dan Tom?
I want to say that as well, but you know, lest we not forget, Thiago Santos fought at welterweight. In fact, in the UFC, had some welterweight fights. Now, I don't suggest he goes back down there, or even that he goes back to 185 if he doesn't want to. But until I hear him say that I don't want to go to 185, these cuts are killing me, or he's missing weight like most fighters, which he hasn't done really any of them. I know he's hinted at maybe moving toward his future being at 205, but you know, until he says otherwise or hits that brick wall, I say why not play both cards?
Both divisions. Fight at both divisions.
Yeah, why not? We'll see what comes up.
Mm-hmm. Similar to like what Bader's doing?
Yeah, whatever, wherever your body's at, whatever fits your schedule, you just have more options to be a little more flexible. What makes sense to you?
Okay. I think that because he won, he should play the light heavyweight card. For one, that division just happens to be thin on talent. There's going to be a shakeup because I don't think we believe, I don't want to speak for the guys. If they want to chime in, they can. That Cormier is going to continue. All right? And I don't even know if Jones just walks into a title shot. But I think there's going to be a shakeup there where if Santos, provided his health is okay, says, hey, put me in, man. If Smith or someone, Teixeira, Gustafs, if someone's not there, I'm jumping in. Perhaps he could find himself with one of those rare opportunities that a fighter gets, a la Michael Bisping before UFC 199, where he's out filming a movie in Canada. They give him a call and say, hey, we need you, count, you know, and next thing you know, he's fighting for a title, and he does it. So I would say play this card, because right now, 85 seems to have a structure to it. You got Gastelum facing Whitaker, but that's still at the end of the year. I mean, they still got it. We're only on episode 4 of Tough. That whole thing has to play out. Then they fight, and then we got to see how their health comes out of it. And then you got that New York card stacked with former champs like Weidman and Rockhold, who face each other. And then you got newcomer Izzy, you know, from down in New Zealand. He's going to be fighting. Adesanya, he's fighting versus Branch. Yo Romero's just never not in the mix. Then again, Romero may also be playing the same card as Santos. So I feel like middleweight just has some structure, and I feel like he's 8th or 9th or 10th in line before they even talk about a title shot. Where at 205, it's like the Wild West, man. Whoever's the quickest draw, they're fighting. So I think stick at light heavyweight for me. Okay. All right, now this is how you all voted, Junkie Nation, readers and listeners. Stay at light heavyweight came in with 59%. 21% said move back to middleweight. 20% said compete in both divisions. So one was kind of out ahead of the other two, but the other two were razor thin. There you have it. There's today's daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. All right, with that, I think we'll conclude our overtime here on the show, on Monday's show. So thanks for sticking with us, Junkie Nation. Danny Otto for always facilitating this. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of MMA Junkie Radio. Goes, any guests, any leads for tomorrow, or still got things up your sleeve?
I think this guy is going to join us in studio. It's not 100% yet.
Okay.
And then working on other stuff.
Working on other stuff. All right, there you have it. All right, so we are out of here, folks. For Goes and Danny and Dan, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be a champion.